Hey dads, welcome to Father Friend, a podcast for dads who want to lean in, lead well, and love big. I'm Dr. Mike Ayers. Someone once said, a father's role isn't to make the path easier for his children, but to make his children stronger for the path. The virtue of courage is rarely discussed in modern parenting circles. Over the past several decades, this essential trait has been marginalized as our culture has shifted toward a safety-first, risk-averse child-rearing philosophy. Many fathers have been pressured into cocooning their children from any meaningful risk, teaching them to play it safe, avoid discomfort, and simply blend in with the crowd. Well, the world doesn't need more people who simply go along to get along. It needs men and women with the courage to lead, to innovate, to protect the vulnerable, and to stand for what's right even when it's costly. That's why our calling as fathers is so crucial. To raise knights and lionesses in our sons and daughters. I'm not talking about personality type because courage can be displayed by both timid and bold children. It's about developing the inner fortitude that enables them to take risks despite fear of failure and do what's right even when it's hard. You say, well, Mike, what do you mean by courage? So let's start by defining it. We're talking really about 4 types of courage we want to see in our kids. First, risk-taking courage, the willingness to try new things despite fear. Second, persistence courage, the determination to keep trying when frustrated, criticized, or when others mock their efforts, to master difficult skills despite setbacks. Third, moral courage, doing the right thing in difficult situations. Protecting the innocent and weak, standing up against injustice, speaking truth even when it's unpopular, and admitting mistakes when it would be easier to lie. And then fourth, spiritual courage, the willingness to be different, to stand up for spiritual convictions, and to stay true to values despite social pressure or cultural opposition. Each of these is important in the growth of our kids. Now, for the time remaining, I want to share 5 ways to cultivate courage in kids. Here are 5 proven ways to develop courage-building muscles in our bubble-wrapped world so children can learn to face adversity and do the right thing. Number 1 way to cultivate courage in kids is we've got to stop rescuing our kids. Many successful men have been forged by hardship. They've overcome challenges that built their character, taught them resilience, and shaped their values. Yet, ironically, these same men who rose through adversity will often spend their lives seeking to shield their children from the very hardships that made them strong. Here's the truth. Courage is only built through risk and struggle. If we can help our children discover this, that growth happens at the edge of their comfort zone, that failure is just part of learning, and that setbacks usually become stepping stones, we give them something powerful, a resilience and boldness that sets them apart from kids who play it safe their whole lives. But this requires something difficult for you as their dad. You have to get comfortable watching your child take risk and sometimes fail. Can you handle seeing them struggle in the short term so that they can grow in the long run? Now, let's be clear about what this doesn't mean. This isn't about deliberately setting your child up for failure or pushing them hard into situations where they'll be overwhelmed. This podcast is for thinking dads, so let's think through this. You don't manufacture failure. You've got to have some wins too, because failure can't be the only thing for your child. But when setbacks occur through their efforts and their attempts, you embrace them as part of the learning journey. There's a difference between allowing failure and creating it, between supporting them through setbacks and being indifferent to their struggle. That's why your presence is so critical. Without someone there to help them interpret the experience and encourage them through it, are often crushed by it. They internalize failure as a verdict on their worth and start believing that failing means they're failures. But children who fail with a dad walking beside them learn to see disappointments differently. They see them as only temporary. They see setbacks as learning opportunities and obstacles as problems to solve. The difference isn't in avoiding failure, because failure happens to us all. It's in having someone help them process it. Arsene Wenger, the legendary soccer manager and FIFA chief of global development, understood this principle. He said this, "For me, it is very clear. A coach who instills fear of mistakes has no place in the development of young players. When a child is afraid to make an error, you immediately destroy their confidence, and with that, the possibility to express creativity. We must understand that mistakes are part of the game, part of the learning process. If we want players to reach their true potential, we must accept the errors, allow them the freedom to try, and guide them to adapt, never punish them for being brave enough to attempt. Wow, exactly. You are your child's life coach, and any effective coach understands that mistakes are a part of the learning process. So let me say it again, because this is your mission as a dad. Allow them the freedom to try, guide them to adapt, and never punish them for being brave enough to attempt. If you truly believe in your child, in their strength and in their potential, that often means allowing them to struggle through challenges so that they can discover that strength and their ability to overcome. I learned this lesson with my middle son, Brandon, when he was in the 4th grade. Let me tell you a story. Brandon wanted a new baseball glove. He wasn't a serious player, but he loved when we played together in the yard or down at the school. Up until then, he'd been using an old glove of mine, but now he wanted his own. So he saved his birthday money and we went to buy him a glove. When we got to the store, he proudly brought the glove to the counter and counted out his cash, only to discover he was a few dollars short. He looked at me in front of the clerk, disappointed and a little embarrassed. I had a choice to make: step in and cover the rest, or let him feel it. I gently said, "I'm sorry, buddy, you don't have enough yet. We'll come back when you have more." Now, he didn't cry, he didn't throw a fit, he didn't even ask me for money. But the disappointment was obviously all over his face. Some people might say, "Man, that's just cruel, Mike." Well, I get it. Every part of me wanted to jump in and rescue. Maybe in another moment like that, I would have. But in that one, I held back. Not because I didn't love my son, but because I did. In the car on the way home, my emotions were raging, and I thought, what did I just do? I turned to him and said, "You're close. Just save a little bit more and we'll come back." And guess what? He did. I gave him some small chores, he saved, and eventually we went back to buy that glove with his own money. He was very proud, and he took care of that glove like it was gold. That moment helped my son develop something far more valuable than just the skill of saving and spending or learning the hard truth about taxes. And by the way, for the record, you should see how well my son handles money now. It formed the belief that he could work hard, overcome obstacles, and achieve something on his own. It shaped confidence, and it started to form an inner voice that said to him, "I'm capable. I can figure this out. I can overcome." Constantly stepping in to solve problems, preventing every disappointment, or smoothing over difficulties feels like love, but it actually communicates, "I don't think you're capable of handling this." Sometimes the most loving thing is to say, "This is hard, but I believe you can figure it out. I'm here if you have a question or if you really get stuck, but I want you to do it yourself because I know you can." So that's the first thing. We have to stop rescuing our kids. Secondly, we have to model courage. Here's a truth that cuts straight to the heart of fatherhood. You cannot give what you do not possess. If we want to raise children who courageously face the world instead of cowering from it, the question isn't just what we're teaching them, it's what we're modeling for them. If we want world changers, we have to show them what that looks like. Father friends understand this. They know that courage isn't just a trait they hope to see in their children, it's a competency they must embody themselves. Because children don't learn courage from speeches about bravery. They learn it by watching their father face his own mountains and by being called to climb theirs too. When your child sees you do the right thing despite personal cost, whether it's confronting a difficult situation at work, enduring through a long hardship, admitting a mistake publicly, or standing up for someone being treated unfairly, they're learning that courage is possible and worthwhile. They learn courage when they see you face your own fears and limitations. Maybe it's your anxiety about public speaking, or your tendency to avoid conflict, or your fear of trying something new. When you push through these comfort zones and then share with your child what you learned from the experience, you're teaching them that fear doesn't have to be the final word. Do your kids see you taking meaningful risks? Do they watch you attempt things where failure is possible? When life knocks you down, do they see you get back up? When fear whispers, play it safe, do they hear you say, I'm going to try it anyway? Now, this isn't about you being a mountain climber, a motorcycle rider, or a thrill seeker. That's not what courage in fatherhood means. What we're really talking about is self-confidence and self-actualization, where a child can say, I am enough to make a difference in this world, and their father models that belief for them. It's character, not personality, and it's the kind of courage every dad wants to see in his children. If a father is living a small, safe, risk-averse life, never risking for reward or pursuing his own potential, he's teaching his children to do the same. It's the unique gift father friends bring. They don't just tell their children to be brave, they show them what bravery looks like in real life and empower their kids to do it too. So first, stop rescuing. Secondly, model courage. And the third way we cultivate courage in our kids is to instill a vision for courage. That is, to feed their imagination with stories of courage. Many children think courage requires superhero strength or dramatic heroics. Help them understand that some of history's most courageous people were quiet individuals who simply refused to compromise their convictions. Jackie Robinson, for example, faced relentless racial hostility when he broke baseball's color barrier in 1947. His courage wasn't displayed through physical confrontation, but through dignified perseverance, excelling on the field while maintaining his character despite the hatred directed at him. Anne Frank was a shy teenager who found extraordinary courage while hiding from Nazis during World War II. Confined to a secret annex for over 2 years, she could have easily despaired or grown bitter. Instead, through her diary, she chose to maintain hope and humanity in unimaginable circumstances. Her quiet strength and refusal to let hatred destroy her spirit continue to inspire people worldwide today. So make sure they learn about these brave people in history. Read books also that inspire courage. Stories about knights who protected the innocent, brave princesses who rescued kingdoms, and ordinary people who did extraordinary things. Classic tales like the Chronicles of Narnia show children that courage often comes to those who feel afraid but choose to act anyway. Look for biographies of real heroes written for children, stories of explorers who ventured into unknown territories, and tales of people who stood up for others despite personal risk. Don't overlook the powerful stories of courage found in the Bible. David facing Goliath with nothing but faith and a sling. Daniel refusing to compromise his beliefs even when thrown to lions. Queen Esther risking her life to save her people. Paul boldly preaching the gospel despite imprisonment and persecution. Joshua leading Israel into the promised land, and Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego choosing the fiery furnace over bowing to false gods. Also when my children were 3, 4, 5 years old, I would make up bedtime stories about brave warriors, both men and women, who faced dragons, rescued villages, and protected those who couldn't protect themselves. Stories about characters who chose to do what was right, even when it was scary or difficult. When my daughter reached elementary age, we read books about courageous women missionaries like Lottie Moon, who traveled alone to China in the 1800s to share the gospel. And Annie Armstrong, who organized relief efforts and fought for causes she believed in despite opposition. I also remember showing my kids the Martin Luther King Jr. I Have a Dream speech and talking to them about the courage displayed in the civil rights movement in the 1960s. I would point out acts of bravery in movies we watched together, not just the obvious superhero moments, but quieter acts of moral courage when characters chose to do what was right despite personal cost. And whenever I caught them displaying courage in their own lives, standing up for a friend, trying something that scared them, or admitting a mistake, I made sure to praise them specifically for their bravery. One more thing, pray for courage. When my kids were in elementary and middle school, we would pray on the way to school. They would bow their heads, and as I was driving, I would pray for their day, always ending with, "And God, help us to do the right thing no matter how hard it is to do." This daily reminder reinforced that courage wasn't just for heroes in stories, it was something we needed in real, everyday life. Here's the fourth way to cultivate courage in our kids. Teach your kids how to manage fear. Now, fear is normal, but it shouldn't be paralyzing. Give your children practical tools to work through their anxiety when facing challenging situations. Here's one process, a 3-step process that I call prompt, support, interpret. Prompting them to face their fear, staying present to support them through the experience, and then helping them interpret what happened afterwards. So step 1, prompt. Don't push, but prompt. Present the challenge as an opportunity rather than a demand. Say something like, I think you're ready to order your own meal tonight. Works better than you have to order for yourself. Give them a clear expectation while acknowledging their nervousness. I know it feels scary to talk to strangers, but I believe that you can do this. Step number 2, support through experience. Be sure to stay close enough to help if needed, but far enough away to let them own the moment. Let's take the example of ordering your own meal. When your 8-year-old approaches the server to order, position yourself where they can see you, but resist the urge to jump in at the first sign of hesitation. Your presence provides security while their action builds confidence. And then step number 3, interpret the results. Whether they succeed or struggle, help them process what happened. If they successfully ordered their meal, celebrate the courage it took. I saw you take a deep breath before you spoke up. That was brave. If they froze up and you had to step in, focus on the attempt. You tried something that scared you, and I'm proud of you for that. That's what courage looks like, doing hard things even when you're nervous. For your toddler, it might be about them climbing a playground ladder or jumping into the pool as you catch them. With a teen, you might prompt them to speak to a teacher themselves about a grade issue. Each child is different, and you have to master the art of moving them forward without pushing too hard. The goal is to stretch them just beyond their comfort zone while ensuring they feel supported, not abandoned. This process teaches children that courage isn't about being fearless. It's about taking action despite feeling afraid, and that they can handle more than they think they can. Let me tell you a story about how my friend taught his daughter how to manage her fear. When his 3-year-old daughter, Molly, was afraid to cross a small bridge at the park, he could have simply carried her across. Instead, he chose to empower her. Be brave, Molly, he encouraged. You can do it. And all the way across the bridge, Molly repeated to herself, be brave, Molly. Be brave, Molly. And when she reached the other side, she turned to her dad with a huge smile and said, I'm brave, Daddy, I'm brave. She had learned something far more valuable than just crossing a bridge. She discovered that she could do hard things. And here's the 5th way to cultivate courage in our children. Quit obsessing about your child fitting in. Many parents today seem more concerned about their children being socially accepted than being courageous. We've become so focused on helping our kids fit in that we've forgotten the importance of raising them to stand out. This cultural obsession with acceptance has created a generation that values caution over courage and approval over authenticity. When fitting in becomes the primary goal, children learn to suppress their convictions, avoid taking stands, and go along with whatever the group decides. They become experts at reading social cues and adapting their behavior to gain acceptance, but they never develop the inner strength to swim against the current when necessary. Consider what happens when your child encounters situations that require moral courage. Witnessing bullying, facing peer pressure to cheat, or being asked to participate in activities that conflict with your family's values. A child who's been trained primarily to fit in will struggle to stand apart, even when their conscience tells them something is wrong. Start early by celebrating what makes your child unique rather than constantly trying to smooth their rough edges. If your son is passionate about music while his friends are into sports, support his artistic interest. If your daughter prefers books to parties, don't pressure her to become more social. Help them understand that differences aren't problems to solve, but strengths to develop. When your child does face social rejection for making the right choice, resist the urge to minimize their pain or immediately try to fix the situation. Instead, acknowledge their courage. That must have been hard for you when your friends got upset that you did not go along with them in what they were doing. But you did the right thing, and I'm proud of you for that. Remember that popular kids aren't necessarily successful adults. Many of the qualities that make children socially popular in elementary and middle school, conformity, avoiding conflict, going along with the crowd, can actually hinder their development as leaders and change makers. The child who learns to stand up for their convictions, even when it costs them socially, is developing the character they'll need to make a difference in the world. Your job isn't to ensure your child is liked by everyone. It's to raise someone who knows who they are, what they believe, and has the courage to act on those convictions even when it's difficult. That kind of character will serve them far better than popularity ever could. Remember, it's better to be respected than liked. This past week, we witnessed the tragic assassination of Charlie Kirk. Charlie exemplified the kind of courage we want to see in our children. He stood firmly for his political and moral convictions, treated others with respect even when they disagreed with him, and was unashamed about his faith in Christ. Through his work with Turning Point USA, he captured the hearts of millions of young adults, conservative and liberal alike, inspiring them to engage thoughtfully with ideas and stand for their principles. He was indeed an agent of change for good in our world. His willingness to speak boldly on college campuses, knowing the risk involved, demonstrated the very courage that I'm describing in this podcast. Though his life was cut short, his example reminds us that standing for truth and principle is worth whatever the cost it may bring. This is what the world needs. We are called to raise a generation of world changers. Let me tell you why courage is more important than ever. You might be wondering, well, why are you making such a big deal of this? Why is this so critical for father friends to master and model? Well, the world our kids are growing up in often feels upside down. They're being bombarded with destructive messages from every direction. Marketers prey on their insecurities. Social media algorithms feed them whatever keeps them scrolling. Cultural forces pressure them to conform, to blend in, and to avoid making ripples. In the face of these forces, we have a clear mission as fathers. As for me and my house, we will serve the Lord, as it says in Joshua 24. So let's be clear about what's happening around us. There's a world out there boldly making its opinions known. With coming out days, pride months, cancel culture, mandated literature in schools, inappropriate entertainment targeting children, the thought police, and in-your-face angry activism, there's no doubt the secular culture is aggressively promoting its worldview. So why should our children be the ones to shy away, stay quiet, and compromise their convictions? If the world can be bold about its beliefs, shouldn't followers of Christ even be bolder about theirs? Now, I'm not talking about raising rude, obnoxious kids, children who are intentionally disruptive, disrespectful, or even violent. Instead, I'm talking about raising young people who are calm and uncompromising, respectful and resilient, morally strong, yet compassionate. The kind of courage we want to develop isn't angry or combative. It's confident and kind, unyielding but gracious. This is why courage matters so much. We're raising children in a world that desperately needs change agents, and courage is the necessary trait not just to survive with integrity intact, but to actually thrive in this world. As men, we're called by God to launch kids into the world for ministry, difference-making, and world-changing purpose, not to produce anemic, fearful conformists. The world whispers, keep your head down, don't cause trouble. Tolerance means approving of everything. Use the right words, even if they contradict what you believe. Think the right thoughts or you'll be canceled. Keep your faith silent. Your values are outdated. But God calls our children something radically different. A life of more freedom, joy, and fulfillment. Romans 12:1 and 2 gives the clear command, do not be conformed to the patterns of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your minds. This demands courage, and fathers must remind their kids of what God told Joshua. Be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid, for the Lord your God is with you wherever you go. Our children need to hear that same divine encouragement. They need to know that in the midst of a world with different values, God says, I will never leave you nor forsake you. So in this world full of darkness, we want our children to possess light and carry it to others. And light, by its very nature, stands out. It doesn't blend in. It illuminates, it exposes, it changes everything around it. This requires instilling in our children a holy stubbornness, a determination to go their own way, not the way of the world. It means raising kids who will stand for their values even when it's unpopular, speak truth even when it's uncomfortable, choose character over convenience, define success and failure by God's standards, not the world's, live unashamed of their faith, be willing to be different if different means being right. This kind of courage isn't developed through high-control parenting that manages every risk. It's cultivated through permission-giving fathers who say, "I believe in you," more than "be careful." It's built by dads who encourage their children to attempt hard things, knowing that even noble failure teaches more than safe success. When fathers consistently challenge their children to rise above mediocrity, to attempt things that matter, and to face their fears head on, something powerful happens. These children grow up expecting to make a difference. They develop an internal compass that points toward impact rather than comfort. And there's something distinctly masculine about the way fathers help their children approach risk and potential. Your role is vital. The mountain your child faces today, whether it's a diving board, a tryout, a difficult class, or standing up for Christ, isn't meant to defeat them. It's meant to reveal to them what they're made of. And your job is to stand beside them, point to the summit, and say with confidence, "I believe you can climb this. And whether you make it to the top or not, I'll be proud of your courage to try." Thanks for listening today. I'm Dr. Mike Ayers. If you enjoyed this podcast, please share it with other dads. I'd love to hear from you. Email me at mikea@fatherfriend.net with comments, questions, and your biggest takeaways. For more tools, resources, and real talk on fatherhood, visit fatherfriend.net or follow on social media @ThinkingDads. See you next time.